And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam Benson, and he's going to go ahead and give you a little overview of our project.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah. Like Micah said, I'm Adam Benson with the city of Shakopee, kind of doing a little bit with this project and kind of getting it off the ground. So this is our 2020 alley reconstruction project. It is a CIP project, so a capital improvement program project. We do a ton of these around the city, reconstructions, new projects, things like that. So this one was slated to go in 2018. Got pushed back a couple years. There's a new apartment complex that's going in on Holmes and 2nd Street there. We wanted to wait to get this alley in so we didn't have to go in there and tear it all up after the construction got through and would, ultimately tear it up. So we pushed it back a couple years, and now we finally got it on our radar to get going here. So the proposed location of the project is between 1st and 2nd Avenue from Fuller to Lewis Street. It's those two alleys back there. Right now they're currently bituminous, and they, they're showing good signs of wear and everything like that. So we're trying to get in there and get them reconstructed here. So like I said, the existing conditions, you can kind of see by the picture here, they're in pretty tough shape. They're built back in 1994. So we've gotten a decent amount of life out of them. And now it's time to kind of get in there and get them rebuilt. They're about 10 to 12 feet wide between, ranging just because of the buildings that are back there. They're pretty flat, not too much grade on them. So there may be some issues, especially right now with all the patching that's been done with localized flooding. Some small areas of standing water may be happening right now. There's no concrete curb and gutter, and there's really not much storm sewer in there. There's a little bit, you can kind of tell on the picture, the little figure down here to the right, the bottom right, that red line is the storm sewer. So you can kind of see that hatched red areas where we're going to be doing our reconstruction. There's just a little small storm sewer line that's going into the alley right off of Holmes there. But other than that, there's not too much storm sewer that's going back here. There's a bunch of small utilities that are underneath these alleys though. Gas lines, communication lines, electric lines. We don't have any big, large utilities though, like sanitary sewer or water that are underneath these alleys. And like I said, they were constructed back in 1994, so they're showing their age. They're ready to be reconstructed. So what we're proposing to do is go in there, rip out the old bituminous asphalt pavement that's back there and repave them with concrete. We're doing concrete just because these alleys are so flat that it's difficult to get, proper grades on there, where we might be running into areas where we might be catching water if we pave them back with bituminous. Concrete's also much more durable, so this will last much longer than the bituminous. We'll also be updating some of the pedestrian curb ramps that are on the ends of the alleys. So right around here at the ends of each alley, there's pedestrian ramps that are not in compliance with ADA guidelines. They've got brick pavers in them, which aren't allowed. The grades and cross slopes aren't meeting the minimum requirements. So we're going to be going through those and getting those up to ADA standards. We're also, because we're doing this with concrete, we're going to be doing it with an inverted crown. So all the water will go into the middle of these alleys. That way we don't need to do any sort of storm sewer in here. We don't need to add unneeded costs to this. So that way we can kind of, it's a twofold thing, get good drainage out of these, and also, eliminate that storm sewer need. And then we're not going to be doing any sort of sanitary or water main or anything like that, just because there isn't any back there. And we also probably won't be doing any lighting improvements around here. There's not really anything back there to begin with, so everything is just kind of staying as it is. And then this is kind of a picture of what the alley will look like. So a few years ago, we did the alley right off east of Lewis Street. We did that one with concrete as well. It's got the inverted crown, so all the water, as you can kind of see in this picture, drains down to the center of the alley. You can see it's working really well. Another aspect of it is we're putting in this building tie-in type curb here. So that'll also be a carryover into our project. So you can see that these alleys work pretty well. This is also a very flat alley. You can see it's draining the water pretty well. Then over on the left here, we're going to be doing, this is kind of a typical pedestrian ramp for this kind of area. Just kind of getting it back to where we've got proper grades and everything, putting them back with concrete. We might be doing some, well, we will be doing some tie-ins to parking lots that might be in the backs of your properties. Most of them I think are bituminous, so we might be patching back a couple feet just to get our alley in place, and then we'll be paving those back with bituminous. So whatever you've got back there, we're paving it back with like materials, but there won't be too much disturbance. So the biggest thing, the project inconveniences, they can be a headache sometimes, but we'll try to always keep access to you for any sort of, if you need to get back there, use the alley. We plan to have it open most of the time. There might be times where they're removing the bituminous or mixing around the subgrade, the base, whatever they're doing, where you might have very, very limited access. They might have to close it down for a bit, but our intent is to keep it open throughout construction. The biggest piece will be when they're pouring the concrete. You'll need to stay off of it for 7 days, so that'll be the biggest shutdown of that. We'll also have some sidewalk closures because we'll be doing those pedestrian curb ramps. But outside of that, we're going to try our best to keep this thing open for you guys throughout construction. This project is too long. Sorry, Mike.
Just add a little bit more on that. We haven't, we obviously don't have a contractor on board yet, but we'll be working with them and balancing that with your guys' needs as well. Typically, during the day, they need to be in there working. But then from approximately 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., access would be restored back there. So for example, if residents need to get back to a parking stall, they'd be able to do that in the evenings. As Adam mentioned, the concrete will be the biggest piece that we will have to shut it down for that extended period of time. And in advance of that, we will be working with you guys to make sure that everyone's aware of when that's going to take place. Another thing that we'll likely do is work with the contractor to, right now we have a pretty large construction window. You don't want to pinch it too much when you're working on contracts. So if we give them all summer to do it, we can say, okay, whenever it fits in your schedule, come in and do it. But what we can do is we can really limit them to say, once you tear up that existing bituminous, you have 4 weeks to get the concrete back in place, something along those lines. So knowing that you guys have businesses to operate, we want to be conscious of that and work with you guys to provide the minimal impact that there is, knowing that construction projects by nature are impactful to day-to-day operations.
Thanks, Micah. So here's the biggest piece of this, I guess. How much is it going to cost? Right now, we've got proposed. We've got an outline of what our plans are going to be, and then the costs associated with that. These are just preliminary costs right now, so they should just be taken with a grain of salt. But right now, we've got about the $172,000 mark. You can kind of see the cost breakdown here. So 30% of this $172,000 is accessible as part of the street portion, and then the city will foot the rest of the bill, the $120,000. And then this obviously needs to go to city council, and it will have to be passed through with a 4/5 vote to keep going. So the special assessment method that we used was an area method, and it'll only be based on the actual cost of construction. And like I said, 30% of this is assessed. We went with an area basis just based off of some of the lots back on these alleys that front them are kind of goofy, I should say. They don't really necessarily, they're not very even. So a front footage type basis isn't necessarily the best way to do this type of assessment. So we decided to go with an area basis it's just more equitable, I guess you can say. And then some of the corner lots we made adjustments to just because they're adjacent to multiple different streets, and it can kind of show you what I'm talking about right there and how we made those adjustments in the next slide. But so there's the 30% of the total project cost at the $51,000, and then it's based off an assessment by acre at the 39,000. And we just do that by how much area you have on your lot. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. Some of these corner lots, like 123 down here, we split this one up, this area, just because it's adjacent to Fuller, Second, and the alley. So really only a third of this is benefiting from the alley improvements. So that's kind of how we went about dividing some of these areas up. Just like a lot of these on First Avenue, only half of the lot is being assessed, just because only half of it is really benefiting from the alley. The other half obviously benefiting from First Ave, so it doesn't make sense to do the entire thing. This is our preliminary assessment roll, just kind of breaking down each property and how much they will be assessed. Most of the assessments are around the $2,000 range. Just a couple here and there that are those larger lots that, you know, are basically a quarter of the block are a little bit higher at that $8,000 range, but most of them are right around the $2,000 range. And this is kind of typical. We had also, so for our Lewis Alley, the one that's just east of Lewis Street that we paved in concrete, those assessments were right around the $3,000 to $4,000 range. We did that one based off of a front footage assessment type. And those are just a little bit more, but same kind of project. So we were able to slim it down here a little bit and make it just a little bit cheaper. And then this going forward is our preliminary project schedule. Like I said, we're trying to get this done in the summer. So we got to take this to City Council here, take the feasibility report mid-February here. Then City Council will approve it. We'll get the plans going and hopefully get bids here by the end of March. Award this thing in April and start construction shortly after that, or see when the contractor has a timeline of when they can get in there and get this thing done. So that's kind of what we're looking at for now. I'll open it up to any questions that anybody might have. But other than that, that's kind of our little short 10-15 minute presentation of what this project is and kind of how we're going about it.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I own 124 Lewis Street. I have an apartment upstairs with access in the alley. I know I'm going to have a problem for the tenant getting in and out of the apartment. She has one way in, one way out. I also have a concrete stoop there that'll probably have to be removed and replaced. Should I stop down to the office and talk about that? I mean, what would I do with that, or how would that work?
That's one that we'll have to look at. Being that it's right off the alley, it may be that building has a zero setback, and we would likely work with the contractor to reconstruct that stoop to, you know, existing conditions or better, obviously, to meet that, you know, any sort of requirements that are there for a concrete step as such. So more than likely it'd be something that we'd work into the project, and we'll come and get specific pictures and take some measurements and stuff so we can make sure that that's accounted for in the plans.
Excellent. Good. One other thing before I stop with questions. That area has a lot of bar patron traffic at night, and it is a concern when it's totally dark, because that's a spot that you might find a dozen people hanging out in the dark alley right there. The Turtles is right there, and they go in and out that back door and hang in the alley. A light might be helpful to prevent people congregating there. I mean, maybe that should be looked at when you're in the area, or take a look at that.
Yeah, so we'll certainly look at it. One thing that's working up against us is, you know, we have very limited right of way with the zero setbacks on the buildings. So we really struggle with a spot to put it. You know, with only 16 feet of right of way, that's really eaten up by the whole drive lane of you know, being able to get trucks through there for deliveries and so forth, and garbage trucks. So to try to fit a light pole in is is difficult, but is certainly something that we'll look at, understanding that there are some concerns with how dark it is back there.
Thank you. Thank you for a good answer.
And we did, John, I think you were the one that sent in a previous response to our mailer that came out. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So Adam kind of addressed that earlier with the drainage concerns and with the alleys being so flat, and the bituminous really starting to break down. It's not uncommon for there to be areas of settlement that'll hold water and ice, unfortunately, in the winter. But with our inverted crown there, what we're anticipating, what we're trying to accomplish with that is to get that ice and flow away from the buildings and out to the center of the alley.
Mm-hmm.
And then in general, concrete is better at surface draining water than bituminous is.
Yes.
So we can go down to, less percent grade on that center line of that alley, but still get that water to drain. So we're pretty confident that the proposed improvements will take care of those little pocket, if you will, drainage problems that are out there right now.
That's good news. I realize there's only so much a person can do, especially it's never hit by direct sunlight because the building blocks it. So that sounds like it'll be an improvement. Something maybe we can manage. Yeah, it's certainly a tough area. We've got tie-ins to buildings on both sides in a small area, and you can only do so much with grade up and down. And that's kind of the general consensus with why concrete, in addition to being about a 50-year lifespan on a concrete pavement versus bituminous being 20 to 30. The idea is that understanding that we have limited ability to adjust grades, the concrete just seemed to be a better solution here in these alleys. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we've looked at that alley for many years, so I believe that would be better. Remember when the last one went in?
Does anybody else have any questions that they're concerned about? Any issues that they want to bring up and make sure that we know about as we go into design of the project or move this forward?
I'd like to thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing that I just want to point out again, on the project schedule that's up right now, that March 2nd date is what we're targeting for the public hearing. And that is your guys' opportunity to come and discuss with council if you see any issues with this project or have concerns about the project or the assessments, so forth. So you'll be getting notification about that. We'll be sending direct mailers to you guys as well, but that'll be in the hometown messenger, as well as advertised there. So but wanted to point that out just so you guys can have that on your calendar if there's anything specifically that you want to come and make sure that council understands concerns or hears you guys directly.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Okay. I don't have anything else.
What time would that
Okay.
council
Well, yeah.
be on the 2nd? I'm sorry.
7 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, no problem. 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and that would be one that obviously we're not back in person, but I think if people have concerns and I can certainly clarify this for you, but I think we provide access to provide comment up front if you need to. So we've certainly worked around that in these strange times that we're in. So we'll make sure that if you do have something that you want to share with council, that we can make sure you're heard there.
Yeah, one more thing I'm thinking about it. You've probably noticed there's a gas line that rises right in the corner next to the building. And there's 2 concrete filled pipes to prevent an explosion when a truck hits them.
Yep.
That should be replaced too, won't it? Because trucks hit those.
Yeah, that'll be something that we look at as we get further into design and we'll get good pictures of that and see if they're in good enough shape or in a spot that they don't need to be replaced.
Okay.
If they aren't and they are in our way and we need to replace them, they'll certainly be replaced to make sure that everything is back to
I think one of them leans a little bit from a
Okay.
truck. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll certainly, evaluate if that's something that's in the right of way, or is it within the project limits? Maybe it's within that tie-in, few feet of tie-in that we need to do to get back to private property, but
Mhm.
we'll make sure to take a look at that and make sure to, if it's something that needs to be upgraded or replaced, we'll do that.
Good. Okay, great.
All right. If no other comments, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll certainly. I believe that you have my contact information through the mailer. If not, I can certainly share that in the chat right now, so everyone can have the opportunity to reach out if needed. I'll send that off here shortly. And then otherwise, we look forward to making this project go. I know you guys all have been waiting for a few years now with the slight delay with the redevelopment of the city hall site there, which is nearing completion and quite the building. So we're excited to get this done and get these things in a little bit better shape than they are now.
Yeah,
Good.
good.
So thank you guys for attending. And like I said, if you have anything that comes up, any other questions that come up between now and either the 16th or March 2nd, feel free to reach out and we'll make sure that those are addressed.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Have a nice afternoon.
That's not a bad assessment. I can live with
No.
that. That's a good thing for us. And that's a real good thing for us. I can't believe it's that cheap. And I was figuring how many thousands is this gonna cost for 60 feet?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with what the assessment will be.
I can live with that.
Yep.
I really can. So, yeah, it'll be a big improvement. I have access to an apartment right there in the alley, and as that alley